Excavation alternatives to reduce project budget. My name is John Ross, and I'm the marketing coordinator at AGC of America in Arlington, Virginia. Before we begin our presentation, I have a few brief announcements. If you have any question for today's presenter, on your screen on the GoToWebinars toolbar, you should see the questions box. Please use this area for submitting your questions at any time, but do be aware that we will hold off on answering any questions until today's speaker has completed the presentation. Except for the speaker, attendees will be muted for the duration of the webinar. Also, everyone who is registered for today's webinar will receive an email within the next 3 to 5 business days with a link to access the audio recording and a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Cara Sabatino, Director of Marketing at AQUALIS. Cara, please take it away.
Hello, and first, thank you all for your attendance today. You know, in a time where you have so many options for webinars and educational opportunities, thank you for choosing to join us. So today we will be discussing the non-invasive excavation alternative, hydroexcavation. So increasingly becoming a popular alternative and requirement in some states and municipalities across the US. I will be sharing with you how this sustainable solution can be applied to your project or your construction site. So I always find it important to know who is behind the screen during these sessions. So my name is Cara Sabatino, and as John said, I am the Director of Marketing at AQUALIS. So I've been in the marketing communications field for over 10 years, and I joined the AQUALIS team over a year ago. So at the closing of our session, I'll tell you more about AQUALIS, but for a brief introduction, we are an environmental organization with a focus in water management and support services that can be applied to construction and post-construction activities. In addition to our focus of our services of hydroexcavation, we provide comprehensive solutions for stormwater, lift station, CCTV underground pipe inspections, and vector and jetting services. And we service all of the continental US, including Puerto Rico. So for review, our learning objectives today are outlined here. So we will be focusing on hydroexcavation services and application, including potholing, utility locating, ditching, and trenching. I'll also be sharing a few case studies applicable to hydroexcavation and some lessons that we've learned from each of these case studies. And we'll be tying back many of the applications to evaluate cost savings, production efficiency, and safety assurances throughout the session. Additionally, granted today is Earth Day, we will be discussing all of the added environmental impacts that hydroexcavation can provide to your projects and ensure sustainable and environmental stewardship for all. So without further ado, let's get started. So our first section, we're going to review the sustainable solutions using hydroexcavation. So hydroexcavation utilizes two major components during application. So this includes high pressure and water. So that water encompasses that hydro portion of the application. Water is pushed through the soil with precision tools to direct the water to daylight utilities, pipes, create a trench, or any other application that would require an excavator. So this water then infiltrates the soil and it creates this dirt slurry, and we're going to talk a lot about dirt slurry today, that can easily be removed using the air vacuum portion of the vehicle. And the storage tank is there to clear the site for visibility to below infrastructure or creating a depression in the soil to further install underground structures. So this application is used with an operator and a specialized hydrovac truck. So this creates that slurry and then removes the slurry and stores it within the truck's tank and disposes of that soil mixture. So this tool is extremely beneficial in areas that are smaller in size, that using traditional mechanical excavator or a backhoe that could damage surrounding soil or the area, that requires a much more targeted approach. So to further dive into the application, Operators use precision tools to focus this water pressure in specific regions. So by injecting the ground with a specialized hose, the mixture of water and soil or other material like sand or clay creates this slurry. So that slurry is then removed using a larger portion of the device. So you can see that in this photo here by the industrial vacuum forces to store the slurry in the truck's holding tank. So from the picture, you can see as this dirt slurry is created, it's continuously being removed to either create a hole, a ditch, or trench, or to daylight those underground infrastructures like utilities and piping. So materials removed during this industrial vacuum system are typically disposed at a certified facility or disposed on the project site. So this usually just depends on the contractor. So state protocols vary, and it's important to work with a trusted vendor to ensure these proper measures and compliance is applied when disposing of the dirt slurry. So for some projects where the dirt is not contaminated or toxic, it can be reused and dried out on site or disposed according to state regulations. So the dried out material can be used either for backfill or other materials on site. So a great economic solution and a great environmental benefit as well. And in instances when working around sanitary structures or wastewater structures, these materials can also be disposed of to compliance standards. So now we're going to walk through the different applications and definitions that hydro excavation can be applied. So some attendees may be familiar with all of these applications or have only utilized hydro excavation for some of them. Since this is such a robust and useful tool, the capabilities are really far-reaching. So we're going to first talk through daylighting. So this is exposing underground infrastructure using the gentle approach of hydro excavation to locate and confirm utilities, pipes, and underground infrastructure from damage that could be imposed from augers or backhoes and trenchers. The next is potholing. So this is a similar technique and sometimes an interchangeable term with daylighting, but potholing is done by excavating smaller holes to verify the location, type, and depths of utility lines. And ditching and trenching. So alternative to using traditional excavation, hydro excavation provides safe procedures for trenching and ditching, for laying pipes, utilities, inspections, or maintenance to underground infrastructure, and following all OSHA procedures during application for on-site crew and project safety. And the next is subsurface utility. So poor documentation or abandonment of lines is a true risk during construction projects, so applying a more efficient and accurate jetting of high pressure water can reduce risk to striking unknown or undocumented lines, even when utilizing a locating service. So according to 811 state laws, generally prohibit the use of mechanized equipment within 18 to 24 inches on all sides of marked utility of the tolerance zone. So safe digging practices, either by hand digging or hydro excavation, must be utilized in these cases. And utilities installed using directional boring can also be difficult to locate. So later in the presentation, we'll review a case study where directional boring was used and ultimately struck a pipe outside of a retail location. And then power pole replacement. So during an accident or replacement stage of power utility poles, excavation can assist in providing installation hole for the power pole. Typically during emergencies, like a down power line, locates for utilities are not required until the process of installation has begun. So this is definitely a safer application in emergency situations to ensure that subsurface utilities are not impacted or damaged. So in this next slide, we're going to walk through cost analysis and the potential savings from applying hydro excavation. So this chart we pulled from the latest Common Ground Alliance Damage Information Reporting Tool, or the DIRT report, where we looked at root causes for utility strikes and determined that in 2019, 169,406, or 49.22% of all reported utility strikes could have been prevented if hydro excavation was utilized. So that means out of the 30 billion of damages from excavation in 2019, over 14 billion of unnecessary expenses could have been saved with hydro excavation. So in at least one scenario, cost analysis comparing hydro and traditional excavation, we found that hydro excavation can be 10 times and at least 10 times faster and at least 4 times cheaper. So the great news is that many of these strikes are small in nature, and we have an example of a small repair striking a utility line versus a major strike that occurred. But because of the interest of contractors like you, the strikes are becoming less catastrophic, and continuing education on best practices in conjunction with hydro excavation will continue to improve these numbers. So we've briefly touched base on how hydro excavation works, but breaking down the main components of hydro excavation vehicle provides further details on how this state-of-the-art truck is able to operate and apply a variety of applications useful for many projects. We're going to break down 4 major components to the truck now. So the first is the white barrel shaped area. So this is the debris body that all the material collects in after being sucked into the hose. So this is where that dirt slurry that we've talked about is stored and ultimately disposed either on site or at a certified disposal site. The next component on the truck that is significant to highlight, this is the additional axles. These are to help distribute weight to the loads that are higher in density, so that mix of water and dirt. Depending on the soil, this type can increase the weight of the load for disposal. And moving closer to the front of the vehicle, the red hose on the front of the truck is for the hydro excavation unit to attach to when it comes to perform the application. So you'll also notice the controls are located near the front of the vehicle as well. And this is designed for the safety of the operator as it removes them from the line of fire when on open roadways. And finally, so the most important portion of the truck, this is that suction hose and extension tubing. So this contains a plastic tip, which is meant to help avoid unintentional conflicts with natural gas lines or other unknown utilities as we perform the excavation. So it's important to note that all locates are performed prior to any excavation taking place, regardless to the task at hand. So benefits of hydro excavation are immense and quickly becoming the most popular alternative to mechanical excavation. For our purposes today, we are going to connect our applications and case studies back to these 3 benefits. So accuracy, efficiency, and non-invasive. So for accuracy, the precise tools apply the hyperjetted water, the accuracy and precision is really second to that. So eliminating the possible risk to striking and damaging underground utilities and infrastructure, this application is superior to traditional excavation in the direct location that it can be identified and applied. So rather than the broad nature of traditional excavation that just in size could cause major issues or damages to the construction site. And the next is efficiency. So the speed and the timely application reduces overall project time, when traditionally hours or days of digging could be the alternative to excavation using an excavator or a backhoe. And as mentioned previously, we're looking at 10 times faster for the application when applied to soil, clay, sand, or other below surface particles. And non-invasive. So safety being essential for your crews, but also the project site, hydro excavation provides reduced risk to damaging any underground utilities, cables, or pipes that could cause significant damage. And these could result in fines or project delays and repairs to underground infrastructure. Additionally, this application allows for control. With traditional mechanical excavation or digging, there's always a degree of mystery to what's below the surface. And this is an excellent solution for investigating and locating utilities, pipes, and structures before committing to a standard digging or excavation on site. So hydro excavation has an interesting history and evolution. So first thought to be applied in the 1800s as miners would use steam to pump water away to clear large areas without damaging the gold or other minerals below the surface. And according to the National Geographic, over 750,000 pounds of gold were extracted during that time using the hydraulic mining method. So I like to say if it's safe around gold, then it's safe to use around utilities. And eventually, the application began to be applied during the 50s for wastewater and cleanup methods, and soon was applied to expose utilities as an alternative to striking underground utilities, as we see today. So as the application has evolved, technology has refined trucks to provide them to be quicker and quieter, smaller trucks, potential for trailer-mounted trucks, but the most popular use is for these larger trucks that can remove an extensive amount of soil and can be on site to assist during construction. So as it being Earth Day, we really want to highlight the environmental benefits of hydro excavation. In addition to overall benefits, there are many environmental positives that we can improve your project's environmental impact and overall environmental stewardship. So minimizing soil disruption being one of the main drivers for hydro excavation as an environmental solution. So hydro excavation minimizes soil disruption around construction sites, allowing it to be utilized around sensitive areas. This includes high-risk areas, including flammable materials, sensitive environments, and delicate wildlife like birds and reptiles, and local waterways, so creeks and streams or rivers and lakes. So if construction is near a stream or a lake, soil disruption can infiltrate the waterways, which causes murky conditions, introducing pollutants or contaminants that could impact the health of the local ecosystem. Underground utilities such as gas, fiber, or electric lines, so these can be navigated without disruption or possible damage that could impact the soil if a strike were to occur. So minimized disruption to vegetation is another environmental plus. So as hydro excavation is gentle enough to maintain roots and tree stabilization near the excavation site, some projects require even an on-site arborist to minimize the disruption to tree and ensure the stabilization of roots. So the gentle nature of the water pressure ensures roots and trees are not mistakenly struck. That could be a hazard if using traditional mechanical excavation methods. And this could cause permanent damage to the trees. And then minimization of soil disruption is due to the process of soil liquefaction, or the use of large quantities of pressurized water to liquidize the soil, allowing for soil removal that is less invasive than, say, a traditional backhoe. So making an impact on carbon footprint. So according to the World Green Building Council report of 2020, 39% of global carbon emissions are attributed to the building and construction industry. So we're increasingly seeing an interest in large corporations and commercial industries focusing on reducing overall carbon footprint. So a project's carbon footprint can be reduced as these Vector combo trucks can offer more services per truck than mechanical alternatives, so minimizing the overall per site fleet requirements. And in circumstances where many tools or vehicles would be needed, hydro excavation can be used and applied to specific aspects on a construction site. So this reduces the need for extra equipment or extra resources. And by minimizing the fleet of trucks and tools needed, the overall footprint from excavation tools, hydraulic links, and fuel links are also reduced. So these vehicle fluids can potentially infiltrate the soil and then are collected in stormwater runoff, impacting the quality of water in the local watershed. So now that we've walked through the sustainable solutions, applications, benefits, the history of hydro excavation, We're now going to walk through some real life case studies and some lessons learned and how hydro excavation can be applied on site for your next project. So our first case study has many layers to dig into and to peel back on the importance of hydro excavation. So unfortunately, this one is a case that we do see all too often and typically very avoidable on all parts. So in March of 2021, our crew was dispatched to a site that we perform preventative stormwater maintenance, as it was reported that they had a clog or potential damage downspout. So you can see from the photo here, the backup of water pooling and flooding this area, a safety concern, obviously for the retail location, for the team members, and for the customers. So initially, the team applied a high pressure jetting to potentially clear the clog or back up in the downspout, and that's in this picture located here. So this photo displays our efforts to jet the line using the high pressured water to break up or clear the clog. And similar to hydro excavation, jetting uses the high pressured water portion to push water through pipes, and this helps to break up or remove debris or clog along the way. So when jetting didn't clear the blockage or halt the water from backup, we did deploy our remote controlled CCTV video rover. So this was able to capture live video and images of the potential damage or the clog. So the push camera actually ended up running directly into the blockage. So we knew that there was something significant going on that pipe. So the last photo is the clog in the pipe that we would discover, obviously very significant, not a minor clog or fracture, or depression, but a major damage to this infrastructure. So with the CCTV view, we were able to determine the exact location of the pipe deficiency, and the team then proceeded with the proper locates to underground utilities before excavating to the damaged pipe. So after the proper utility locates were determined, the team went to work to find the pipe. This first photo here, so this shows the utility line that was daylighted with potholing method before the team went in to discover the damaged pipe. So it would have been really difficult to navigate this project with hand digging. In this case, the hydro excavation provided the right measure to properly proceed. So the next photo, this showcases that high pressurized water. And we've said this a lot along the way, but this shows that high pressure being applied directly into the soil. When finally daylighting the pipe, the team discovered that there was a fiber optic line bored directly into the downspout. So in this photo, you can see the fiber optic line running directly into the pipe. Obviously, this is what was causing the major backup, clogging, and flooding. At this point, the team contacted the fiber company, and it was determined that the line was inactive, and we were able to go ahead with the repair a few days later. So the team returned and in the end ended up repairing 1-foot section of the broken PVC drain pipe. So after all this was determined, the fiber optic line was directionally bored from over 100 feet away with horizontal directional drilling. So this is a great case of mishaps without properly daylighting, and then the applications that hydro excavation can provide during post-construction repairs. So how did our overall benefits to hydro excavation assist in this project and case study? So our accuracy, in this case for accuracy, utilizing the CCTV in conjunction with hydro excavation, this determined the exact location of the deficiency in the pipe. Also, the utility locates were completed accurately to ensure minimum damage to other utilities during the process. And efficiency, so timely application. Due to the emergent nature of this situation, hydro excavation being applied saved additional time that saved the retail location, more localized flooding, which could have further impacted the source and the cause of the impact of the backup. And utilities were able to be daylighted quickly in order to get to the pipe to analyze for repair. And then non-invasive. Traditional excavation or hand digging could have damaged the existing utility line located above the pipe, as well as further damaging any healthy parts of the pipe that were not impacted by the fiber optic line puncture. And the applications of CCTV and hydro excavation combined provide a detailed insight into the overall project scope without further impacts to surrounding infrastructure. So this next case study showcases hydro excavation applied in a space constraint project. So this was a situation where traditional excavation equipment couldn't reach or would have been really difficult to navigate in the terrain. And hydro excavation ended up being a very time-efficient solution. So a contractor was hired by public utilities for a city in the Pacific Northwest to perform sanitary sewer repair on a mainline segment. The project location was about 24 feet deep on a hillside, and that had no access for a traditional excavator. So our team assessed the project with the contractor and determined that we could use hydro excavation in this case using a 150 linear foot or 6-inch suction hose to assist the crew in providing appropriate trenching for the new install. So not originally covered in our original scope, but applied when on site, we deployed our CCTV technology to inspect and locate the site as the contractor was having difficulty locating the pipe for repair utilizing hand digging. So we ended up being able to use the daylighting of hydro excavation, and it ended up only taking 2 days, where it would have been really difficult to complete this project using hand digging or a mini excavator. And this application reduced the overall footprint of the project by reducing the need for additional manual hand digging and equipment. So how did this utilities repair benefit from hydro excavation? So for accuracy, hand digging was not accurately locating the pipe for replacement. With hydro excavation already planned for the repair, the contractor ended up using the services for additional benefit in locating the pipe with the use of CCTV and hydro excavation. Efficiency, so rather than traditional excavation equipment, hydro excavation can be applied by distance with extensions to the truck and being able to offer services in tight, restrictive locations. In this deep into a hillside where traditional methods, this could have caused damages to surrounding areas, including the stairs, the sidewalks, and neighborhood disruption. And non-invasive. So safety was the utmost importance here as well. With just additional footage of tubing applied, there was no need for additional equipment and operators that would have had to navigate under undesirable areas and terrain. So our final case study is one of lessons learned, and not the worst case scenario, but not a scenario that anyone really wants to be in. So ultimately, this was a mistake that cost hundreds in thousands of dollars and months in delay. So this ended up being an emergency response to a project that, would the contractor have used hydro excavation, it could have really been avoided. So the general contractor in this case failed to hydro excavate and pothole the nearby utilities and went off the pure locates that were marked for the subsurface. The general contractor drilled tiebacks as shown in this picture here without realizing that they had struck the main sanitary sewer line and backfilled over 25 tons of concrete that flowed down into the main sanitary sewer line. So this clogged up the city's main line with 25 tons of hardened up grout. And at the time, our team was hired to remove the setup of concrete from the sanitary sewer line with the use of a special device called an impact milling head. So this allowed for the concrete for the sewer line without digging the pipe. However, it was a very effective process, but very, very time consuming, in which it did cost the contractor over $300,000 and took over 5 months to complete the work. And unfortunately, it's a case that we see all too often, whether a gas line or in this case, a sanitary line, these strikes are still occurring. And hopefully as we see hydro excavation becoming a fixture in many construction sites, these instances can potentially help avoid the expenses and these issues going forward. So our lessons learned. More than a few, to say the least. This is a great example to sum up our real-life case studies. So accuracy, we know that locates can be incorrect, and due to the incorrect scale of maps, only provide approximate locations, or in general, just incomplete or even entirely incorrect. And that was the case here. So the pure locates were not accurate. And if applied, potholing the utilities with hydro excavation would have verified the mismark and appropriately navigated the utilities. And efficiency. So big failure on efficiency, where if applied, a day in total of potholing the utilities would have saved months of headache and cost to the contractor. Also in this case, additional fines if applicable by the city, and potential insurance premium increases as well. And non-invasive. So the entirety of this project was meticulous and slow to remove that hardened concrete, very invasive to drill away and chip away at this hardened grout. Hydro excavation would have been applied a gentle application just to daylight the utilities and project, and it would have all proceeded on schedule. So in our next section, we're going to review applications and applying hydro excavation throughout the construction process, as well as the necessary checklists to review when you're selecting a hydro excavation for your project and hiring a trusted vendor. So during pre-construction, hydro excavation provides a variety of solutions to project sites. So utility and daylighting, a main topic I believe we've covered pretty thoroughly today. Daylighting utilities is used across all periods of construction. Slot trenching, so the use of providing a narrow trench for the use to install pipes and cables and underground utilities. So this solution requires much less restoration as well, and compared to traditional excavation with minimal backfilling required. And the time saved by hand digging or traditional excavation, right, the perfect trench for installs is a great benefit to using hydro excavation in this instance. And safe digging. So according to the Common Ground Alliance, the United States has over 20 million miles of underground utilities, which if accidentally damaged by digging can have significant negative outcomes. So virtually all of them avoidable if an 811 call is made before the digging begins. So 811 provides vast amounts of education materials and protocols accessible to all contractors. And the following protocol is to ensure the safe digging is always applied. So the first is to notify, to reach out to your state's 811 calling center or make an online request 2 to 3 days before work begins. And 811 always transmits that information to affected utility operators. The next is wait. Allow utilities to send out locators to mark buried lines with paint or flags. So confirm. State laws vary on the process for confirmation, so be sure to check with your state. Respect. The marks provided are your guidelines for the remainder of your project. Dig carefully. State laws prohibit mechanized equipment in that tolerance zone. And last but not least, hydro excavation. So to ensure safe digging, it's recommended to confirm utilities with hydro excavation. When there's any question on subsurface locates, hydro excavation can assist in solving any mysteries. So during construction, there are many applications that can be applied to your site as well. So service tie-ins, daylighting existing utilities to tie-ins is a common practice and efficiently used during construction. Active installs, trenching or ditching used to create precise depressions for any active installs for utilities or underground infrastructure. Service abandonments. So with increasing urban developments, sewer and water laterals, telecommunication, fuel, and fiber optics, can be left underground or out of use. So hydro excavation can be applied to daylight and assist in the proper removal of any unmarked or abandoned lines. An emergency response. So typically our main response to project sites is for various emergencies, like a utility strike, unable to locate underground infrastructure. In some cases, we're even hired to be on site to assist in various applications throughout the construction process to provide hydro excavation on the spot as needed. So in the case of sanitary waste or spills, these trucks can also assist in the removal of those materials as well. Post-construction. Post-construction applications of hydro excavation are also very vast. So repairs, applying trenching, daylighting, in assistance to any repairs, this tool assists in removal of debris, sludge, dirt, mud, or water, and then disposed of properly. As showcased in our case study at the retail location, this application was quick and moved the project along to avoid further flooding or damage to the location. The warranty items used in inspection purposes, hydro excavation exposes any underground infrastructure for warranty inspections or to confirm failures. Precision excavation. So when needed for precise and small scale excavation, this application is very clean and delicate, and the precision is direct and accurate, and that can be applied in many circumstances. Emergency response, so applicable to all stages of construction. Emergency response is our most deployed reason for accessing a site, and that's why we offer 24/7 response. So no emergencies are ever planned. Implementation of hydro excavation. So assessing your project needs is the first aspect of if hydro excavation can be utilized on your project site. So soil material analysis. Hydro excavation is ideal for heavy, wet, fine soil materials that can be difficult for traditional mechanical digging vehicles to navigate or excavate, and ultimately more difficult to transport. So the use of hydro excavation truck is very beneficial. So considering the same in regard to depth, depending on the soil and the needs at hand, this can be determined with your vendor, as the depth is all determined on the project itself, the material on site, and safety factors. And site logistics. So in the instance of our case earlier, logistics are incredibly important. So applying extra length of hoses for access or navigating the vehicle near the construction site are all included in how hydro excavation can be applied. Site footprint. Is mechanical digging more applicable based on the size? Talking with your vendor will ensure that hydro excavation would help speed up the timeline and be efficient. Project deadline. So if a deadline or an increase in pace, hydro excavation can assist in daylighting utilities, trenching, or applications where mechanical excavation is used. And safe digging expectations. Always essential and protection for the site and team members of the project. And then finally, potential safety risks to traditional excavation. If there's any mystery or unknown to the underground infrastructure, which applies in many cases, so hydro excavation would be an appropriate solution. So as we get into the last slide of our hydro excavation portion, in the following up with the last slide, a trusted vendor is so important. The increasing popularity and state laws, including hydro excavation for utility locating, finding the right vendor that's certified, professional, is really important. So this slide is just a few things that we find appropriate to vet and verify the hydro excavation team actually meets your needs. So first is experience. So ensure you consider experience, which is necessary in navigating every unique obstacle a project can throw at you. So many applications and problem solving happens during the application. So having an experienced operator at hand is really required. So skill, similar to experience, skill is learned through time and time again applying this knowledge in real life scenarios. So with safety being vital combined with experience, look for how long operators and organizations have been practicing the skill. And understanding scope. So with many factors in each application from soil to depth, a true professional will want to assess the site, apply knowledge to ensure the project scope is accurate. Plan together. So we can't stress this enough. When working together for solutions is everyone brings their knowledge and perspective to the project. And trust having a hydro excavation advisor to walk through where and how applications can be applied on site, or when instances that traditional excavation may be a better route. Knowing your source is honest and helpful, just makes everyone's work easier. And certifications and safety assurances. So in an industry where safety is #1, checking and vetting certifications like OSHA or confined space entry, this will make your project progress so much more smoothly. So in our next section, I'm just going to highlight who AQUALIS is, our services, and overall solutions that can benefit general contractors. So AQUALIS is the leading nationwide provider of stormwater and lift station management services. So these services include preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance or repairs, retrofit and redesign, as well as emergency response. And AQUALIS helps property owners protect their assets, mitigating notices of violations on stormwater control measures, diminishing flooding risks, and supporting property owners' efforts in environmental stewardship. So we partner with retail, commercial, industrial, municipal, healthcare, hospitality, educational, and governmental industries. And we service single site and multi-site organizations through our preventative maintenance programs. So with over 20 years of experience in the water resource industry, AQUALIS provides innovative and leading edge solutions to meet budget constraints and exceed compliance expectations. So with programs that ensure quality like our quality assessment program, we strive to deliver an exceptional client and raving fan experience. So as we talk through today, there's many services beneficial to construction, including factor and jetting, hydro excavation, underground CCTV pipe inspections, and emergency response. So we offer a comprehensive list of applications for general contractors for factor capabilities, as well as underground pipe assessments. And the slides from today are available to view this comprehensive list. And of course, you can always reach out to us on our website at aqualisco.com for more information about our solutions for general contractors. So we are a team of enthusiastic and educated environmentalists dedicated to helping our customers understand complicated stormwater management laws, avoid expensive violations, and ensure the safety of our planet and all of its inhabitants. So specifically, the importance of OSHA, confined space, these assist in the use of the hydro excavation as well. And again, these certifications and slides are available to you as well to view. So as we jump into our question and answer portion of the presentation, I want to thank you all for listening in today on the sustainable solutions of hydro excavation. So I want to introduce Wade Stafford. So he's the Vice President of Wastewater at AQUALIS. He oversees our Vector and jetting and hydro excavation services, as well as our lift station management services. So formerly with CleanCo Maintenance and Construction, Wade joined us with the acquisition of lift station assets, and Wade has been with AQUALIS for over a year and has over 15 years in stormwater and construction services experience. So I'm honored to have him here with us today and to answer some of the questions you may have submitted during the presentation. So with that, John, do you want to go ahead and take it away with our questions?
Absolutely. First, I wanted to actually bring this one up. One of our attendees simply said, "Thank you, Kara, and that you have had an excellent presentation."
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
We do have a few questions as well. I'm just going to go down the list here. The first is, Disposal of wet soil is a real hindrance to companies wishing to use hydro excavation. What solutions are available? Kara, wait, I'm afraid I can't hear either of you at the moment.
Oh yes, wait, I was going to kick it over to you. Are you there?
There we are. Wade,
There he is. There he is.
Was having a little difficulty there with the muting. Okay, so with question number one, usually we work with multiple partners to come up with creative disposal solutions that enable some type of reclaim to the soils and liquids. Those, however, are off-site locations. On the on-site, typically we would use some type of dewatering box or larger holding tank to allow for the eventual haul off or reapply of the soils elsewhere on the property.
All right. The next questions kind of go together, so I'm going to lump them into one question. How effective is this process against rock, and is it functional for excavating under the water table?
So for the rock piece, if it is solid rock, then this application will not be effective for that particular situation. If the material is a rock-like hard pan or a glacier till, then this will work. However, it may be a little bit more time consuming and you will utilize a little bit more water in the process and have more disposal of the material versus a traditional excavation method. You do have some limitations with rocky substrate. And for the excavating under the water table, it is possible to do this. It's more like a supplemental form of dredging. While using a snorkel on the vacuum unit, it allows the truck to breathe during the process. Otherwise, the water will overwhelm the truck to a point that it is not effective, and it'll just consistently take on water and fill the unit up with water versus the soil that we're targeting.
All right. Do have a couple more questions here. How long does a typical hydro excavation of daylight utilities take? Pardon me, daylighting utilities take?
That is absolutely dependent upon the excavation size. That could be anywhere from an hour for a smaller excavation, maybe something like a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot with a granular sandy type material from start to finish, versus it could be several hours, it could be days, depending on if you're daylighting an entire run of pipe or opening up a large excavation and removing all of the material off site. So that really varies depending on the size of excavation and the soil material that we're dealing with.
All right. One more here. Are there different trucks used for different applications of hydro excavation?
Yes. So depending on the application, there are various sizes of hydro excavation trucks that utilize not only water for the hydro excavation piece, or utilize air for air knifing to remove the soil. And that is determined by access and ground weight limitations, things like that. There are also pull behind small trailers that we utilize as well for smaller applications in more constrained areas.
All right, we had another question come in. How much material can your trucks hold before having to empty the tanks?
Again, that depends on the size of the trucks. Typically, we utilize boxes that will set along the side of the truck that we can directly push the material through the hose and into the boxes, so we're not filling the truck. That way we are able to excavate longer periods of time and remove those boxes versus removing the truck, and we can keep the project moving along as we continue to remove material.
All right. If there are any other questions, now is the time to submit them. Otherwise, we may wrap up just a bit early. Kara, Wade, did you have any closing remarks while we wait?
Well, I just wanted to say, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. You can request a free consultation directly through our website at aqualisco.com, or you can reach us directly at the number on our screen or on our website, and we're here to help. So thank you again for joining us today.
All right, we actually did have one more question pop up for us. When using remote hose, how far away from the site can you be?
That will vary on the exact application of the truck. That can range anywhere from a few feet out to, I believe, close to 1,000 foot away from the actual unit.
All right. Oh, and one more. What are the preferred soil types for this type of excavation?
So preferred soil types would be the easiest to hydro excavate would be sandy, silty type soils. Native soils are the preferred soil type targeted for hydro excavation, but it can be used in a very broad range of soil types.
All right. That appears to be all the questions. Oh, never mind. One more just came in. Does this use, pardon me, let me make sure I understand the question. Does the use of the remote hose affect the suction or pressure available?
Yes, that will impact. The more hose that you have will diminish the ability to vacuum. So the longer that you're reaching away from the truck, the more reduction you have in the volume of material that you can pull at any given time, and the density of material as well.
All right, I'm just going to give us 1 second since I've called it a little early a couple times. So any other questions? Feel free to submit them now, and if not, then we'll wrap up and give you all back just a little bit of your time. All right. Well, Kara, Wade, thank you both so much. This has been a very informative and great presentation. We've really appreciated your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I've got one last question that just beat us at the buzzer.
Look at that.
Is hydro excavation seasonal or temperature sensitive, and to what extent?
It potentially can be temperature sensitive when we get to temperatures that are below 30 degrees, freezing temperatures. There are methods of circulating the water to prevent freezing, but that can impact the functionality of the truck if we get into freezing temperatures.
All right. And okay, now everybody's talking. So here's another one. So this is from the follow-up to that last question. Are you not able to heat the water when you're digging in colder temperatures?
There are water heaters. Typically, those are specific to specialized trucks for heated pressure washing or heated applications. So there are applications that do provide the heated water. However, most trucks are not equipped with that. So that would be a case-by-case basis, but it is available.
All right. The other remarks that have come in are just additional thank yous and appreciation for the great information that we've had today. All right. Well, I'm gonna press my luck here. I'm gonna say that I think that might be all of our questions for today. But thank you both again very much for the time, and thank you to everybody who joined us. And as a reminder, you will receive a copy of the PowerPoint presentation in PDF format. within 3 to 5 business days, along with the recording of the presentation itself. And since we haven't had any more questions come in, I'm going to say thank you once again to our speakers and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, John, so much. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.